we're going to look at 3 different replays at 3 different ranks of people playing Viper. And this hero is becoming one of the highest picked and banned at Divine bracket, and also has the highest win rate. And it's slowly dwindling down into every other player's games. And as you'll see, players do progressively get better at this hero that's usually considered relatively low skill. This first player is Crusader 7, and then we'll be looking at an Ancient 1, and finally an Immortal player. And straight away you'll see that he placed down a ward here just before the rune, went back to block the creeps and missed 2 creeps in the block. Now both of those things are quite insignificant here, and what's probably the biggest thing by far in this lane is his skill build. And against Dragon Knight, he relies quite heavily on a passive, which gives him both not only health regen but more armor. Your right clicks can effectively do more damage if you break his passive, and guess what? Nether Toxin literally does that. Nether Toxin is the spell that most people are maxing on this hero, and it's really strong against melee heroes, especially in the lane. And in turn, again, because Dragon Knight has this passive, it works as like double effectiveness. But Viper doesn't level it until level 4 here, and in turn you'll see that every time the Viper right clicks him, it's pretty much making like no difference whatsoever. So you end up seeing Dragon Knight, this entire laning state, look at his health, it never goes down even with Viper's harass. But what's really important about this is look at the last hits. Dragon Knight has 26 last hits, 11 denies, and Viper's only on 7 to 1. Like, this is totally outplayed here in terms of last hitting, and Dragon Knight is going to hit level 6 far before Viper is, and this lane is pretty much slowly becoming a little bit disadvantaged here because of the fact that he has no mana regen. He has to even buy mangoes to use spells now. And this is the first time that Viper's left the lane. He went and used his shrine. He kills a creep camp while taking the shrine. And as you'll see, his item build now, he's going stats, and first off he's using the break. It's quite effective here, and straight away he's using all of his mana. Dragon Knight's even committing a little bit further, but now look at his mana pool, it's all gone. So that entire shrine, which was pretty much there to regain his mana, pretty much turned into nothing. He probably should have waited till someone came mid, or asked someone to come mid to help him like kill this Dragon Knight, or potentially even rotate to another lane. So what Viper's been doing now is he's sitting mid lane farming a little bit, but he also has his boots toggled onto int treads constantly. Now this isn't really effective in any way. He ends up getting hooked here kind of stupidly, and he toggles the strength treads. In turn, Dragon Knight now, does he have a Shadow Blade? He does, and it ends up being really easy for Viper to die here. And if we have a quick look at Viper's items, none of his items can really effectively do that much. He did just buy a javelin there and some mangoes. So now after that gank, they can see that there's 3 or 4 players top. Viper isn't really looking there. He is having a look at the mini map, however, and he does push down this tower, which ends up getting uncontested here. Now Viper is going into the jungle and using his Nether Toxin on the creeps, which is a pretty good idea. However, the fact that he's only starting to do this now at 19 minutes, we'll see that as we go higher in MMR, players are going into the jungle earlier and taking advantage of both lane farm and jungle farm at a much earlier point. Now this is the first time that Viper's decided to respond to top lane. He comes in, he throws out a Nether Toxin, and then uses his ult afterwards. In turn, the enemy just get away. So while the Dragon Knight is disconnected and the enemy team are not grouping up together, Viper is pushing down tier 2 tower, and now ends up finding Centaur behind the tower as well. Now they end up pushing this second tier 2 tower here, but what's really important about it is watch what Darkseer does. And the initiation, this is what happens at Crusader. Pudge with the epic hook, and Darkseer comes in with a wall, and the Ion Shell on Darkseer is going to rip through Viper here. Watch how much damage Viper is just taking solely from this Ion Shell and wall. It's insane, and Viper pretty much doesn't understand that, and you'll see throughout this match that Viper just doesn't understand the Ion Shell directly. Maybe it's just because he doesn't know what Ion Shell, how much damage it outputs, but even when he's dead there, he doesn't really move his camera around to check items or anything like that. It ensures that he has the entire full mana pool when pushing this tower. However, he's not interested in TPing back to save this tower. Instead, he's walking back. He could easily just TP to the shrine. Instead, he walks the entire way. The enemy could have vision to see where he's walking as well, especially through his own jungle, and he doesn't know that. In turn, his support ends up dying before Viper was there. And if currently Viper was on the high ground here, it would heavily benefit him. In turn, now Dragonite gets away. So if you TP to this like shrine that he's walking up near now, it would have benefited as well. And the shrine is probably currently available. Yes, it is. And you can heal from that too. So here comes Viper in now with some right clicks. What you see there, he uses his Nether Toxin and then his ulti, which Dragonite just gets to walk out of. And he ends up just again dying here to Ion Shell. And he's completely ignoring this Dark Seer. Now it is important to take down this Dragonite. He has been their mid player and he does do a lot of damage. And he's also the one that's taking down a lot of these towers as well on his own, which are being defended by no one. And he runs away with Shadow Blade. So kind of typical stuff that you might see a Crusader pushing towers. Shadow Blade, run away, you're immune. This is a relatively stupid thing. There's two heroes pushing high ground. There's no other backup. Now if we look at the minimap, there's only Dragonite showing bottom. Now he's disappeared as well, and there's so many ways they can initiate him. They could get hooked up onto the high ground. PA could just jump on him and kill both of them. Centaur can go on him. You have ulti here, and in turn here Pudge TPs to the shrine, and Viper just gets away with a little bit of a crit. Now Centaur should have been the one that initiated there and easily got a kill on both Viper and Bench in that scenario. Here the wall from Darkseer, he goes godlike, and Viper in that particular instance just end up dying to lots of magical damage, and he doesn't understand that. If you have Dota Plus, I know you have to pay for it, but it does tell you exactly like how much magical or physical damage you do. I don't think this Viper has Dota Plus, unfortunately. Pay to win. Now the enemy is just after taking Roshan, and they're gonna come high ground, and straight away Pudge is standing here. You can see the Pudge, you just focused him and you walked into the hook. If Viper was not gonna get hit by the hook, the Juggernaut was, but either way there was no attempt to even dodge that hook. Very slow reactions there. Now the TP in is pretty good, the Nether Toxin down, and it does zone this Pudge and Dragonite. It's kind of weird because once they walk into it they get rooted, but then they don't get hit by the Nether Toxin. So now they're coming back for Viper, and Darkseer, okay, walk into the Nether Toxin and die. But this time, because Viper is not standing in the wall, he nearly walked into it there. He's not dying so easily. But either way, the enemy do have to expend a lot just to take down this Viper. And in turn, it breaks apart their whole push with the Aegis. And even the Centaur only manages to get one tower. And he probably should have just went with his team. Running down mid lane rather than going for Megas was kind of questionable. But either way, this ends up being a nice way where Viper's team can come back into the game. But Viper's team are not structured together. They're all like split up and they're not effectively doing anything. Viper's positioned very defensively here, and PA just comes in and starts right clicking the barracks. Now they do use Glyph here now, and Viper is here just focusing this Darkseer, which is one of the ones doing a lot of the damage. And he does get his blade mail out just before he gets stunned here, but he is surrounded by 5 heroes and goes down quite quickly. With this current build that he's doing, it's not very strong, so he ends up dying very, very quickly here and has no buyback. He's 4 minutes until another buyback. It was just the fact that he never actually pressured any of the other lanes, and he also got Nether Toxin on level 4. He had like no mana. He made several mistakes of where he just like walked into hooks, as we saw Pudge did some epic hooks this game. But there was very little attempt to do anything to try and dodge these hooks. Now we're on to the Ancient 1 Viper, and what's very apparent about this is all of these replays I'm showing you are recorded in 7.21b, and as of recording right now, the new patches come out, which pretty much saying that Nether Toxin only stacks once now, meaning that before, which is in these replays, you used to be able to put down 2 Nether Toxins in the same spot, and it would take damage from both of them. Now, what's also this Viper has done pretty nicely, he has a ward on his own high ground, and he's just spamming this Nether Toxin, and you see the places he even positions it down. It's hard for even a ranged hero like Necro to like actually last it without taking harass here, as you see here. And he's also stacking this side camp at the 2-minute mark, and he keeps stacking it every minute here. As you'll see, he very quickly comes in here and just only taking harass from some of the creeps through this little spot where the tree line is broken down. But in turn, he just goes into his own jungle and starts farming up with clarities in the jungle constantly. And this ends up being that he actually gets ahead on last hits and uses the shrine pretty early on. And this Necro is very predictive of what his opponent is doing. He comes in with a haste rune. He doesn't even need an observer ward to do this. It's just his spidey sense was tingling that there's a Viper jungle, and when someone doesn't show in the lane for like almost 2 minutes, it's bound to be that someone is just going jungle and they're not showing in the other lane. So it was pretty good by the Necro to figure this out. So the first one is straight away here. This Necro and Zeus are together. If we look at Radovato's radius, you can see that you can hit Zeus here all the time, and Nether Toxin is not as far of range, but he waited a little bit too long for this. In turn, he has to take some harass here from the Necro. Zeus could here just walk into the Roche pit and make them lose vision. They do have track on him though, but it ends up being that they end up chasing for this kill. Viper decides to turn around here, and he can see Juggernauts coming in on the mini-map behind him, and he never reacts to this and ends up dying. It's a very small window of time that you could see Juggernaut coming in there, but just chasing a little bit too hard, using the Rod of Atos a little bit earlier could have saved him there. But either way, he's committing really far here ahead, and he potentially could have got lifted by Rubik and pulled back or something here. But he's going in really far. Zeus had an Invis rune, which they didn't know about. And Juggernaut gets going here and play very aggressive. The Rod of Atos just allowing him to get away here. Oh yes, nicely done. So Juggernaut showing bottom on his own, farming. And Viper ends up getting Omni Slashed here. He uses Greaves straight afterwards, and he has enough movement speed. Now Viper's ultimate goes through spell immunity. Juggernaut's running after him. Now he puts down another Nether Toxin without having to turn around, which Juggernaut has to run through. Now this Bounty Hunter is doing a huge amount of damage, as you'll see, because of the fact his network is almost the highest in the game. And Zeus throws out an ultimate and just about survives here. The Zeus ult now, but it wasn't enough. And even getting the shrine out and the Greaves, and he's back to full health, and he doesn't have to go back to the fountain to heal up. He's trying to get away here, and it's really hard for them to take him down. Necro has his ultimate here, and he was trying to use it on Viper, but Viper went into the fog of war by walking around the trees and just staying at a clear enough distance so that Necro can't use his ulti on Viper. But either way, Juggernaut is getting here to Viper to run him down. Might be a really good idea to go something like a 4-staff, because if you get blocked in by a Fissure, you can escape from that. Or if you want to go up high ground and low ground, the mobility is just really effective, and the movement speed is kind of questionable of how good it actually is here. And using all the spells here, and pretty much the enemy team really struggled to take down this Viper. As you'll see, when he's super tanky like this, enemy just have to back off. They can't really kill him. And as you see, this Fissure is blocking him out of this fight, being able to harass here. And the enemy's not interested even going on Viper here. He even has a hood. He has no buyback now because of buying this hood. And going on Zeus, they get using, look at all the spells they're using on Viper. Oh look, another spell. And is he even going to go down here? The little of extra movement speed is helping him here. But he ends up surviving. Watch, look at all that spells that they wasted on him. Now they don't have Echo Slam, they don't have Reaper's Sight, they don't have Zeus ult. Like, what are they gonna do? How are they gonna kill this guy? They use everything on him. So being this like super tanky build, the enemy rely very heavily on these ultimates to get kills. But in turn, the Nimbus plus Omni Slash ends up killing him. He doesn't have any vision of the enemy. They have kind of weird places of observer wards, and he's pushing out quite far here on his own. In turn, this is a very good opportunity for him to gank. There's only one other person showing on the map, which is Bounty Hunter in top lane. And Juggernaut ends up showing up with a Reaper's Sight. It takes him so much just to kill him. As you see, a lot of the physical damage from Juggernaut coming out is what's taking most of its damage from. However, it's important to note he is getting these kills here and catching this Necro who's out here on his own. Rubik manages to get away with 4-staff onto high ground. Earthshaker with Boots of Travel in, which is kind of awkward position for Earthshaker to be now. And he ends up backing off. Now he's only getting punished for this bad position now, which is Viper even going to get the kill. So if he focused the Earthshaker there, he could have killed him, and getting the Earthshaker down early on would have been really good. As you see here now, he dives to Omni Slash. Pretty much easily, they're the best way to kill Viper or counter him for the enemy team in this match is literally just the Omni Slash. This is why I wanted to emphasize the Ghost Scepter. Even though it's a very irregular item, it works really well this game. So Viper's here going in his own. He's getting caught by Nimbus and stunned from Earthshaker. And they're using everything on him. Line with a nice stun here. Even turns around to throw a Nether Toxin. Now the thing is, he's used his Greaves, his Drums, and his Pipe. It's kind of questionable why he started the fight in this way. In turn, he ends up taking another Omni Slash jump. And these are relatively stupid positions that he's been in 2 or 3 times in a row now. Now just after Viper respawning here now, they walk up near the high ground of the enemy to get Echo Slam. But as you see, the Echo Slam does no damage because of this Pipe, blocking pretty much the entire Echo Slam. So these aura items, while a lot of the time are kind of boring and overrated, they're really highly effective. And again, another Omni Slash which takes down Viper. Over this past probably 5 to 6 minutes, Viper's had a pretty big hit on his net worth. It never really changed, and Juggernaut's now hitting 30k net worth. So the enemy is just after taking Roche and they're coming high ground now. And Viper is throwing down the Nether Toxin using spells on Juggernaut. And now Juggernaut's asleep, or he's asleep. What Juggernaut doesn't realize is that Nether Toxin now silences because of Viper's level 25 talent. And Juggernaut's silence again, another Nether Toxin down, plus a finger from Lion. And Juggernaut doesn't get to spin right till the end. And in turn, this Viper ends up being really hard to take down. And the Viper's team is coordinating really well together. Juggernaut's even buying back now to fight this fight. And Juggernaut is not really getting much effectively done, even though he's one of the highest. He is the highest network. The fact that Viper's Greaves and Piper's really doing an enormous amount of this fight to mitigate a lot of damage, even giving passive health regen and armor with the Greaves aura when they drop below 20% health is really big. And as you see, Viper just surviving through this Abyssal Blade and stun from Earthshaker. There's so many spells that come out that just still can't take down this Viper. And reaching this point in the game makes the enemy have to back off. And Juggernaut died 3 times during that whole engagement. And the enemy is still super obsessive about this mid lane. In certain cases, what they should be doing, because this Viper is so strong, they should be splitting the lanes and be going to 2 lanes at once. Because this Viper has such bad movement speed, the top and bottom tier 3 are the furthest apart. I know it's not that hard to understand, but the fact is Viper will not be able to keep going back and forth between both of them, and you can pretty much exploit his bad movement speed. What you end up seeing is that they use so many spells here just to try and take down this Viper. And in turn, can they even kill him? No. And he's not just taking lots of damage, but he's also dealing a lot back. And he could have potentially died to Reaper's Scythe there. And I think he does have buyback in this scenario here. And Viper's now standing in the trees trying not to get caught. And he's coming in here on Zeus and Rubik. He should have thrown down a Nether Toxin there onto Rubik and silenced him. He wouldn't have been able to get the lift there, and he probably would have been able to pick up a kill, which would have been kind of just that little bit extra gold. But he has to buy back here anyways. And as you see, just zoning the enemy. And they're committing really hard to try and get this lane of Rack. And the silence is being super effective here, saving his PA here. What he should have done here was stand into the Nimbus so that the Nimbus had a chance of hitting him rather than the PA. So you see he walks into it now, which is a little bit too late, and gets stunned. This is something that's relatively small, just because of the fact that the hero it just takes so much to take down. This could be a really big fight and really important to the overall game. So it's really good that they're responding to Roshan. Viper goes in first. He probably should have thrown down a Nether Toxin first before he ran in. Now he throws it in afterwards. He activates a pipe. He has the Greaves ready. He walks into Nimbus here. He doesn't have a BKB, and he's actually walking into Rubik's Nether Toxin there, the equivalent to the line this game, and just surviving. Oh, so close here. And this extra magic resistance is working out pretty good here. And that Rubik ends up getting caught here. And in turn, their 5-man ends up just being stronger at this point into the game. As you see, Juggernaut's net worth, even though it's still the highest, Roshan is up. And the fact that buybacks are really important here as well. And Juggernaut finally has decided at 60 minutes to go BKB. 60. Do not do this in your games. When you're playing against a hero like Viper, it's really important that you're magic immune while you can right click. The problem is when you're spinning, you can't do the full right click damage. You can only do the stuff that comes from the orbs or attack modifiers. So the Molnir will proc when you're attacking with Juggernaut. You see how quickly Juggernaut like starts dying now? It doesn't matter even if he has BKB or not. So the PA's just got so far ahead. And earlier on, what should have happened here is the Juggernaut should have been using BKB and hitting the rack. This way of playing Viper was potentially better, and you see like just wasting spells on a hero. You see this sometimes even people buying Lincoln Spear. The fact that people have to wow, no damage, exactly. Either like something like Force Staff or even a Ghost Scepter would have been really nice this game. So now finally we're onto the Immortal player. And this time you'll see his item build starting off is going this like rate band double slippers, right? He only goes one rate band this game, which is pretty nice, but his item build right now is maximum damage that you can get with right click. Got Nether Toxin level 1. And I also want to emphasize how he's harassing. Look at how he's spending his time harassing these like guy constantly. As he's running away, he's right clicking him down. Big advantage here to Viper in this lane is that he has CM's aura to give him mana. And he ends up exploiting this to the fullest, this passive. So he throws it out and constantly harassing this Ember, forcing him back, and even diving here with extra mana regen that he can do here. Now Spirit Breaker is charging him, support comes in, Shadow Demon, and they keep chasing after him. Even the Doom shows up as well. So 4 heroes chasing after him. It's 3 minutes into the game. This is not worthwhile, and even the Ember dies out of that. So that's pretty big. The fact is even the fact that he's not in other lanes, he's making enough space for this Pangolier to get farm in bottom lane. He's trying to do 2 stacks at once. He times it a little bit wrong and only stacks one of the camps. In terms with this Invis rune, he can walk up to Ember straight away on the high ground without taking a mischance from low ground. Ember just gets away with like a tiny bit of health. If Ember had died, he wouldn't have had a teleport to come back to lane. And they end up taking tower down at like 6 minutes here, which is really early. In matter, like, the Ember now has no tower to play defensive. And the Spirit Breaker almost ends up dying here, but the Shadow Demon takes down the Viper. Just the fact that he's held in one position with Soul Catcher as well, it's a huge amount of damage. He's stacking, he's now farming the enemy's jungle rather than his own jungle. So this is keeping the aggression on really hard here. And you can't always do this, but because of the fact that he got like 3 kills in lane, whatever, right? He's pretty far ahead. And Doom is trying to come in for a Devour. They also have Vision here. So in terms of the fact that like having 2 observer wards in this location, it's really effective. And Viper pick against something like a Spirit Breaker is very effective because Spirit Breaker's combo is very easy to predict what it's gonna do. He just like presses charge on you, and it's also really easy to execute. But Viper is one of these things that you can play it relatively bad and you have a very hard time for Spirit Breaker to kill you. In here, Void is coming in and he throws out the Rod of Atos just before the Chronosphere, which was really good timing, which is not enough to save this support, but he ends up like getting doomed as well, which is also not enough to take Viper down. But either way, they just come and start pushing the tower. So not backing off while he has like health. A lot of players like sometimes back off because they're half HP. He still has like 2 bottle charges and even got the regen rune. So to keep their position in the enemy jungle, they have a ward down here the other side. So pretty much what they were doing at the top tier 2, they're now doing at the bottom tier 2, which is controlling this part of the map. And they're going on the Leshrac here, the enemy team. But in turn, Spirit Breaker used his ult and combined with Doom as well, and keeping the Viper from running away. They try and use everything they can on this Viper, even Chronosphere. And having multiple melee heroes on your team with Chronosphere, it's not always that great. It's hard to hit a good Chronosphere without your teammates in it. But it's Troll now, because there's no ultimates left, he can just start turning on this. Now they're trying to switch aggro between heroes by going in and out of the fog, but this Troll is going ham, even with the CM aura here, or CM ult. Is he gonna go back in here? Oh no 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 no. He gets him, and Ember has to buy back to kill the troll, which I think that was kind of a value buyback. It only gave 400 gold though, so probably not. Maybe a bad buyback there, but either way, it's Viper making enough space for this troll to go crazy. So here now Viper's pushing up kind of far. He can see this charge coming, and he uses the root just before Spirit Breaker gets to him. They end up just getting a kill there. So this just shows you how further ahead that Viper is at this point, and even taking Roche here. And Viper has no interest in even like attacking Roche. He's just coming in looking for kills. They see Chrono happening bottom, and the first thing they want to do is go high ground. So similarly to what we saw last time, Spirit Breaker used his ultimate to push Viper back under the tower, and Doom also comes out. But this time Viper knows exactly how much health he can like survive on, and he doesn't have mech though. He does have healing here from the bottle. The whole team here, well, 3 of them are hiding in the shadows, and they end up getting a nice initiation here. Spirit Breakers here, and they get another charge on the mech, so surviving through that, Doom ends up getting a nice cheeky kill here and keeps the enemy in their own base. So they're just after picking off Ember Spirit, and a lot of the reason why they're able to snowball so hard like this is just because of the vision that they can keep up, and the fact that they're able to control the enemy jungle regularly. So having vision down here part of the void before he comes in, and as you see, just even something simple like the DD rune and like the map control allows you to take all these bounty runes, so your supports also get more farm as well, and it's really effective play here. And as you see, games are ending really fast in Immortal brackets matches, but how far you commit with the hero and how you back up is really important. Even picking it in the right matches, such as say where there's multiple melee heroes or where they rely very heavily on magical damage to take you down, then Viper's passive is really effective against all this sort of stuff. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe if you want to see more Dota content like this. Tell me what kind of hero do you want to see next, maybe offlane, a certain hero in particular